This video is brought to you by mybookie.ag. What's up, guys? We're going to be going over the predictions for Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury and the main event of Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann that's going to be happening this weekend. So regarding Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury, it's a fight that's been in the works for a pretty long time, but now we finally get it, and we get to see if Jake Paul can actually be a younger, under 40-year-old professional boxer. And we're going to see if Tommy Fury actually stacks up to this level of competition that he's not really used to fighting. So both guys aren't really used to what they're going up against, and both guys fight differently. Jake Paul has some absurd power, man. He definitely has the power advantage going into this, and Tommy Fury is going to have the speed advantage. You can also see his monstrous reach. At 6 feet tall, he has an 80-inch reach. That is insane. And he uses it pretty well off of his jab. He throws right straights up top, right straights to the body, some right hooks around the guard, all shoulders and arms. But Jake Paul is going to be the bigger fighter who's used to fighting in a heavier division. Most of his fights are like 187 pounds and up. His first two boxing fights against Nate Robinson and Ali are the 175-pound division, which is actually Tommy Fury's weight class. Even for the most recent fight for Tommy Fury, he fought at 175 pounds. Since Jake Paul's gotten bigger as a person, I don't know if he can actually make 175 pounds anymore, but he could just be fighting around his walk-around weight this whole time. Now, when we look at the techniques between them two, Tommy Fury has more fundamentals when it comes to his offense, and I would say that Jake Paul's defense is just better overall, where Tommy Fury usually keeps his hands really low. When he throws punches, he always drops his hands and exposes his chin. He even got caught by some overhands after throwing a jab from some of his opponents that are not as good as Jake Paul. And Jake's best punch is the overhand. So I could definitely see, and actually I'm going to say the most likely thing to happen if Jake Paul gets a knockout is that he punches with Tommy Fury, they trade with each other, and Jake throws an overhand while Tommy drops his jab. That can happen, or the other way around, where Jake throws a left hook over Tommy's right hand and catches him on the chin with that as well. Every time Tommy throws a punch, his hands just drop. But he has quick hands, man. 1-2s are fast. He throws it to the body, then up top, and it's really hard to gauge which area he's going to target. So it's going to be up to Jake to always try to trade punches with him and win those exchanges. Because number one, he's going to want to get inside the reach, and the best way to do that is probably when Tommy is throwing punches. That's an easier way to get in for Jake, and Jake can get under some of those punches up top and crack him with that overhand. If Jake is going to chase Tommy, he's going to have to really cut him off, right? Cut off the ring is going to be the best way, but Tommy's just so much faster, and he has that crazy reach. It can give Jake some problems in like a neutral stance where both guys aren't really pressing the action against each other. Tommy's going to probably be winning most of the exchanges when that happens, but as soon as Jake makes his way in or Tommy makes his way in, that's when Jake should be able to club him over the top. So Tommy's path to victory here is to stick and move, stay behind the reach the entire time, and target the body often. Get Jake to slow down and take away his punching power, because Jake is the most vulnerable when he misses his right hand. So by constantly sticking at the end of the reach, he could bait out a lot of those right hands and just move away from them and then counter afterward. So there's a lot of opportunities for both guys here, but ultimately my prediction for this fight, I am going to go with Jake Paul. And I see the betting odds here. My bookie has it as almost a 2-to-1 favorite, and I can agree with that. Jake has a lot of power. He needs to just land one, and the way Tommy exposes his chin is never good when he's going up against a power puncher like that, and it's a big step up in competition. At least Jake has fought fighters who have experience, you know? Anderson Silva, even though he was almost 50 years old, he did recently beat a former professional world champion, and Anderson is probably better than every guy that Tommy has fought. So backstepping overhand rights for Jake is going to be good for him, or pressing the action, cutting off the cage and looking for that as well. Left hooks could be a big thing for him too. And Jake has sneaky body shot combos that could really come out of nowhere. But if you are believing in Jake Paul's downfall in the fight, or that Tommy Fury is just too good, he's been training with some of the best place to go is on mybookie.ag. And as you can see, Jake Paul is a minus 165. He has been moving a bit. More people are starting to bet on Tommy here. They probably believe in his professional experience. A lot of people seem to think like he's more of a professional boxer than Jake, even though they have like the same kind of experience. So while he's shrinking as an underdog, it's probably best to get on him now. But if you're going to ride with Jake Paul, it's really hard to know exactly what the fans are going to do, but he has been falling as a favorite a little bit, but he could rise a day before the fight. So if you want to get on him now, it could be a good time, or you could put something on him if you think that the fans are just going to put a bunch of money on Tommy Fury right before the fight. And you can see in the methods here, a knockout for Jake Paul is a plus 250. A decision win is a plus 182. So if you think he's going to win by a knockout and you're confident in that, you probably want to go with the knockout win, a plus 250, rather than just picking him in general. But if you think he's going to win by a decision and you're confident in that, go with the plus 182. And as for Tommy Fury, both those odds are greater, where it's a plus 286 for a knockout and then plus 390 for a decision. And of course, the draw is always going to be massive. plus 936. I think the best way to go about it is actually just picking the winner, but there is a possibility the fight can end with a knockout if Jake catches the chin or Tommy just unloads with barrages after working the body for most of the fight. If you're not confident in going with either guy, you can go and bet if the fight's just gonna go to a distance. Doesn't really matter who wins. If you think the fight's gonna end by a decision, you can bet on that, and if you think it's not, someone's gonna get knocked out, then you can go with that as well. You can almost match your money whatever you put in for a yes or a no if it's gonna go to a decision. So make sure to go to mybookie.ag and take advantage of that deposit bonus. They'll match up anything you put in for your first deposit all the way up to $1,000. So you put 10, they give you another 10, and you can put it any way you want. You can either put it for the Jake Paul and Tommy Fury fight, or if you want to bet on the UFC fights, that's great as well. Just make sure to use the promo code WEASEL, that's WEASLE, to take advantage of my bookie sign-up offer. The UFC fights are really close in odds besides like a few of them, where you do have some massive favorites like Joseph Solecki being a minus 625 against Carl Deaton, and I do not like those odds. That's way too big of a favorite for a guy that's not the greatest striker. He's good on the ground, he could force it down there, but Deaton will sometimes throw wild in very random moments and catch you, and Solecki can get caught in any moment. That's why I don't like those odds there, but I do think he should win because his grappling is just so much better. The other one, an even bigger favorite, is Tatiana Suarez being a minus 833 against Montana De La Rosa. These are the kind of odds where it doesn't hurt to put something on the underdog, because Tatiana, yes, an absolute monster of a fighter, a force to be reckoned with, some of the best wrestling we've seen in the women's side, hasn't fought in about 3.5 years. That's a lot of time off, man. And Montana has decent submissions that can always interrupt Tatiana's wrestling style. I never like these kind of things, unless it's like Shevchenko fighting a nobody, then I understand, but in this kind of fight where there's such a massive layoff, those are some risky odds right there, man. But I would say your favorites of the card are gonna go to Andre Muniz. I'm gonna still ride with Tatiana, I think she should win, and maybe Nurullo Aliyev, maybe. Rafael Alves can make anything happen. But given the IQ, actually, he gasses out so quickly. Nurullo Aliyev is probably another good favorite on the card. Now your underdogs of the card, the fighters are most likely going to win. Dante Mace is someone to look at, especially with the fact that Augusto's on a negative momentum now. He is not doing good. He's getting knocked out. His chin is just not there at all. And if he gets clipped by Mace, that fight's over. That is the only real underdog. And maybe Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann is not a bad bet as an underdog. The others are pretty risky. They can go back and forth. It's really good to keep your eye on those big underdogs, man. A lot of people can be shocked in those fights. And remember to visit mybookie.ag. And then we go to the UFC fights. And it's a fight card, you know? It's a card with fights on it. I'm not going to say it's like the best card in the world or anything like that. The main event's okay. Should be a wild one. It depends how Krylov really approaches it. We know how Ryan Spann's going to attack him. Andre Muniz versus Brendan Allen. I think it's a good fight between two good jiu-jitsu fighters, but it does seem like it might be a mismatch for Allen here. Suarez is back. Tatiana Suarez is finally returning after so many years, but if she has some ring rust, she could get submitted on the ground by Montana, but she should be a massive favorite going into it. Trevor Peek is a wild man. Love watching his fights. Gabriela Fernandez is a powerhouse. Just a unit of a woman. Wait, I don't know if that could be taken as an insult. And this fight is actually one I think a lot of you guys will want to see. Rafael Alves versus Nurullo Aliyev. This is a good fight. Alves is much more experienced. He has almost quadruple the fights that Aliyev has, and he's also a wild man. Remember his fight with Drew Dober? He was like hitting the robot and stuff on him and throwing crazy stuff out there. Defense was insane to watch, but he blows his wad so quickly. That could be the biggest thing going against him when he fights Aliyev. And watch Nurullo Aliyev. He's going to remind you a lot of Khabib. He has like same kind of mechanics. It's weird. He resembles so much of Khabib. It could be a really interesting fight. Of course, he's going to try to take the fight to the ground. He's not as dangerous as Khabib was. Like, he doesn't go for the finish as much, so it probably won't be as fun to watch if he's dominating. But Alves always makes things interesting. And here are the predictions of the rest of the card besides the main event. You guys can pause if you guys want to look at all of these. And the prospect of the night is going to go to Nurullo Aliyev, as he is also one of the only promising prospects on the card. He has good wrestling, good grappling, good pressure, and really young at 23 years old. There really is no fighter of the night. You can go between Ryan Spann to Nikita Krylov to even Andre Muniz to Tatiana Suarez, but the stake of the night, the fighter that is in hot waters, is definitely Augusto Sakai. He's on a 3-loss streak and he's losing pretty badly in his fights. He loses this one, that could be it for him in the UFC, man. He might get cut. The banger of the night is definitely Eric Gonzalez versus Trevor Peek. Both guys can get pretty wild at times, especially Peek, who's going to be bringing on that kind of fight. That's how he always goes into his fights, just swinging his hands at the opponent, trying to take him out. He has a lot of power and even knocked out Worthy like that. And the fight of the night is going to be that main event, Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann. Really curious about this fight and how it's going to go down, because this fight can unfold in different ways here. And let's get right into it, man. Looking right at the main event, Nikita Krylov versus Ryan Spann is a pretty interesting fight. This one could be pretty wild, or it could be a one-sided wrestling session for Nikita. It really depends on how Nikita approaches this, because if he strikes too much, he makes a lot of mistakes and he can get caught. Ryan Spann has one-punch knockout power, can send you to another dimension with a jab. He could send you to Reyes' home with a jab. He usually has good boxing fundamentals as long as he paces himself correctly. Good counter punches, a lot of power. He could one-shot Nikita at any moment. So I really wonder if Nikita's going to try to go to the wrestling right away. And knowing that Ryan Spann does not have great takedown defense, I mean, the guy was getting taken down by Krylov, right? Krylov has decent takedowns, but Nikita's been doing this for a very long time. He also has good wrestling, shown in the Volkan Oezdemir fight. He even took down Magomed Ankalaev. People forget that. Took down the physical specimen Johnny Walker. He even took down Glover Teixeira. So his wrestling's absolutely no joke. If he fights smart, he could definitely win this fight by a decision or like a late submission as Ryan Spann starts to gas out. But if this fight gets outside of 3 rounds, it's not going to be fun to watch at all. It's going to get really sloppy really quickly. But both guys have a lot of finishes, so I definitely do expect it to end quickly, where Nikita makes mistakes on the feet, he exposes his chin, he has good movement and good kicks, but his hands are just not all there defensively, and Spann could snipe him on the way in, or if he presses the action against Nikita. But then again, if Nikita gets Spann to the ground, there are many submission openings for him to take, so it does make this fight very hard to predict, and Spann is extremely talented, so I do expect something different from him in this one, and he probably has a lot of confidence coming off that Dominic Reyes knockout win. But man, every time I look at Krylov's fights, he gets tagged so much before he shoots a takedown, and I don't think he could take those kind of shots from Ryan Spann. If he stays on the feet even for like 30 seconds and gets clipped, that fight can end right there. So I could definitely see how Nikita Krylov wins this, and he probably even has a better chance to win it, given his wrestling advantage and his submission ability on the ground. But I'm going to go with Ryan Spann. I'm going to go with the underdog pick here, and I'm going to go by a first round knockout or a 4th or 5th round knockout as Nikita gasses himself out, as the fight gets sloppy and slippery and a big shot lands for Ryan Spann to end it. But if you go by like a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round submission for Nikita Krylov, I can absolutely see that happening as well. This is a very tough fight to predict given Nikita Krylov's IQ. And that's the end of the predictions, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to give this a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.